Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk und bei mir ist heute ein altbekannter, allerdings, eigentlich, er war ja der CEO auch schon davor von der Company, Canagold. Catalin ist bei mir da, er ist CEO vom Unternehmen, er war auch schon CEO zwischen 2014 und 2018 und ich habe ihn jetzt mindestens seit fast 3 Jahren nicht mehr gesehen. Ich bin Aktionär, das heißt, es gibt einen Conflict of Interest. Und ja, er gibt mir jetzt einmal ein Update, was sie in den letzten 3 Jahren getan haben. Catalin, thank you for your time. I said in my German introduction first, I have a conflict of interest. I'm a
Yeah,
shareholder.
good for you. That's a good conflict.
That's right, but
Yeah.
but on the other end, you're coming back from Zurich last week. There was a conference there. I'm a little bit frustrating about the market in general.
Yeah.
Gold is close to all-time high, and then you look at not the big ones, but also the big ones. When you look at the share price, then you see a little bit disconnect between the gold price and the low price of especially the exploration companies, but also the production companies are not doing like we expect when the gold price is this high number. Do you have any idea why is this the fact?
No, you are absolutely correct. I mean, it's a bit against the common sense rule, because even going back to that a little bit, if you look at during COVID times, right, and when uncertainty was high, and even during the current Ukraine war, we would all expected, when the high inflations are going up to 10%, that gold would go to $3,000, and that did not happen. So why? And this is, something that is the perfect ingredient for a much higher gold price. And, there's many speculations of why that did not happen, but I don't really care why it's not happened. What I'm looking for is where are we going from here? And I think it really, what's very interesting, and that's again, as you said, I was in Zurich at the Gold Forum last week. I think there is a consensus now, and I think the market tells us that as far as gold prices, this is it. And truly this is it in the way that I truly believe $2,000 level of gold, whether today went down a little bit, we're going to test the 900, 2000. This is the new low ceiling for gold. And I think what's has happened right now, there's probably enough time to have passed since things should have actually start to move. The things are going to start to move in the gold space, and we've seen it, as you said, slightly with the big guys, and it's always a lag. I mean, it always takes time before an event and the things actually do happen. And I still that's going to be the case here, where as we move through this year and as things starts to reality starts to check in with people, we're going to see much higher gold prices, and then with that, inevitably the quality stocks will follow and eventually will lead that jump. That has not happened yet. You only have some blimps of that happening, but I truly expect that as we move into this year, people that have been patient enough to hold on to good stories, or people that are courageous enough to jump into the stock market now, they'll do very well. But I think it's also a flight to quality. As we all know, mining in general, actually, and this was a theme at one of the presenters in Zurich, it's one of the worst performers in the stock market as a general, as a bucket, right? So if you take a general view on mining, all the companies combined, you would invested money over the last 20, 30 years, we'd have actually done worse than any other industry. But that's not how you make money in mining. You pick the winners, or you pick enough winners to make you money, and maybe you have some losers. That's really how you make money in mining. Because a winner, when it comes to an exploration story, it's a company that makes a discovery and a project that eventually becomes a mine. A company that's got the wills and powers to move a project from discovery through feasibility, production, and then you make the money, right? And this is the case of, let's say, Victoria Gold. Great example. Go back many years ago, it was a discovery story. Now it's one of the largest mines being built in Western Canada, right? And people that were patient enough to hold on to that, they did very well. I would argue Canagold, it's the same story. It's a company that's unfortunately been around for way too long, 30 years. But fundamentally what has happened with Canagold, and I know you mentioned that I was the CEO of the company prior to rejoining last year for about 4.5 years, 5 years almost, before was, you know, the I guess the group of people running the company, the board, lacked that I guess desire and willingness to change and make things happen. And this opportunity was realized by a private group, which is a fantastic group. It's called Family Investments. It's a mining group. They have 2 gold mines in Colombia. They are producing roughly under 100,000 ounces a year. They own about 40% in Canagold. They've invested in our company in excess of $10 million in the last 12 months or so. They made basically a financing commitment to basically fund the company regardless what the market wants to do, to complete the bankable feasibility study, which we are currently doing, permitting, and make a production decision. So this is actually for the first time in 30 years that has happened with the company. And why? Because they've been able to successfully fundamentally change the company at the board level, right? So we now have a complete new board made out of people that have, you know, huge track record in an industry, and you have a shareholder that both has the financial and technical capabilities to help us achieve those objectives. And very interesting thing that has happened with us as this proxy battle has happened last year, not only was successful, but was overwhelmingly successful. In other words, people like yourselves and others that have been around and frustrated that the company is a great asset, but there's no progress, stock price is stuck, overwhelmingly supported that change, right? And I think, and this is actually the reason why I decided to come back, because for me, it was an unfinished business. I left the company when I left in 2008 with $50 million cash and 2 million ounces of gold, and you know, since then kind of deteriorated, and now with a new group, we are in a very strong position. And for me, it's almost an unfinished business, and I truly am confident this time it's gonna go through as planned. And because we sit on one of the highest grade undeveloped gold projects in Western Canada.
You say highest grade. What's this grade mean?
So basically, it's gonna be roughly based on the public resource, which we have a new one coming up soon. Over 10 grams gold, over 1 million ounces, giving us aiming a production profile of 100,000 ounces a year for about 10 years. And the grade is important. You know, this is how you make money. And in our case, it's not only important, but it's instrumental to making the project economical, because it's a project that's very remote. You know, it's far up north, no power, hard to get to it, challenging logistics. Well, it's in this day and age, you can make it work as long as you can afford making it work. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, when you have 10 grams gold to play with, you can afford to, let's say, spend 1 gram for this and 1 gram for that. Still left with 8 grams to make money from, right? So it's very critical, and I think it's a unique project from that perspective due to the grade, and it will be a project that will be looking to have very nice economics, and one that could actually be financed. And we are very fortunate to also sit in a good part of British Columbia, in the territory of Tlingit First Nation, which has been extremely supportive of our plans. And we're really going to set an example of how we can partner with the First Nation group to do a project that's very sustainable, small, and create legacies and opportunities for the community. So, you know, if you want to watch our news releases, we've been making real progress actually since August of last year. Not only we began the feasibility study, we've actually commenced the formal permitting process in British Columbia that has started. We've signed not one but 2 agreements with the First Nation group that we are partnering with, and you know, things are working. We've added 1 more senior person to our team. We've announced the appointment of a senior mining officer, is senior vice president of operations. It's a guy that actually comes from El Dorado Gold and Barrick, you know, like a solid guy, who's actually in charge with the bankable feasibility study. We'll be adding more people, a couple more probably as things progress. But we're shifting the focus now at Canagold from exploration to basically a pre-production story.
So you're coming up with, there was an old PA on it. What's capex looks like? Where I say you are very remote.
So right now, we do have, as you mentioned, a preliminary economic assessment that was completed on the project in 2020 that showed the capital cost about $110 million US. And then, of course, since then there's inflation and higher costs, and why not, right? So right now we are doing a bankable feasibility study with Osinco Engineering, which is a very large and well-respected engineering group out of Australia. And, we are targeting, and I think we are realistically hoping to be under $200 million, which again, it's financeable, right? We're not talking billions of dollars. We're talking, under $200 million. And, when you have a project that can produce at a grade of about 10 grams per ton, you expect the payback to be somewhere in the region of about 2 years, right? So and also the other important thing to keep in mind, the fact that Sun Valley owns 40% of the company, and the fact that they do have revenue, they are willing and able to provide possibly part of the equity needed to get the project funded, right? Possibly the entire equity, possibly partial equity. So, it's a great position to be in.
You say you're coming up with a new resource calculation in the next.
I think it's imminent. We are working on an updated resource. We've done about 40,000 meters of drilling since the previous one was published. What we are targeting is really about 1 million ounces at measured and indicated, which before was only about 50 and 50% indicated, 50% inferred. So 40,000 meters of drilling, which we made all the results public, have been fantastic. We had some really great intercepts and new areas we discovered. So we're expecting a good outcome of the update. And that's really what forms the basis of the, call it 10 years mine life at 100,000 ounces a year. So the new resource will be coming out soon. The only reason why it's not been published yet, and we've actually been aiming for Q1, and we are now in Q2, beginning of Q2, is that we take a very hands-on approach on everything we do in the project. We do now have, not only internally but through Sun Valley's technical team, access to, for example, they have a team of about 80 people in Colombia, geologists, engineers. We have access to all those people. We are really hands-on with the technical guys. We want to build this thing. We want to make sure it's economic and it's built to the best possible standards and economics, right? So we are reviewing and checking everything we get, not only from the resource guys but also engineering wise, right? So we've actually been challenging, and we continually challenge the consultants to come up with the best possible and most realistic outcomes.
Okay. So when you summarize a little bit, which news flow we can expect the rest of the year? So first is the resource calculation.
Yes, exactly. So this coming year, I think really it's for us it's a feasibility. It's basically getting things done, right? So we're working through the bankable feasibility. We're planning to have it complete by Q1 of next year. We could possibly do it sooner, but again, for the same reasons that we want to have hands-on approach, we want to take our time, do it right. So we're going to have a new resource update. We're going to have possible news updates on how the feasibility evolves, with key elements of it. We have been making great progress with the First Nation group, so there may be additional news associated with that. And as we move through the permitting process. So it will not be necessarily a typical year where you have results, trading results, and things like that. It's more a year when you basically keep the market informed of how you progress to eventually become a company that makes a production decision.
Okay,
right.
That's mean not longer all the drillings are done, so the results are out. So
Yes.
now it's the progress to go these steps what you
de-risking
need.
the project.
Yeah.
Exactly. So will be more kind of updates on where we are in various things, right? Because for good reasons, when company has been around for 30 years and the performance has been not great, people lost confidence, and people are, we've heard it before, you're going to do it, not show us. We are really at that stage where people are, okay, now demonstrate that you are actually doing it. And I think we are doing that, and we have to do that, and that's how we're going to make things happen. And through that process, as the company progresses through these phases, that's how the market should revalue us, because as you there is a project, there is certain valuations you get at different stages of ounces in the ground, right?
It's a very interesting development the last year. Do you see after the battle last year that some of the previous shareholders are selling stocks into the market, or what was that is normally what I expect when you have a battle of it, one lose, and the loser is selling then more the stock, or do you see some heavy volume coming out?
Look, that's a very good question actually, and it's to the contrary. So what has happened with the company, not only we've had chance to talk to many shareholders, even people that voted against Participate, they're very pleased with how the company has been moving since, from a actionable perspective, things that we've done, right? More interesting, when we've raised the capital in December of last year, December last year, Sun Valley was very keen, and it's a very good shareholder. They wanted to be very fair with all the shareholders, right? They had the ability to write a big check, but they said, no, we're going to give all the existing shareholders the right to participate. So instead of doing a private placement with one investor, we said, no, we're going to do a rights offering. So we announced actually a rights offering that went to all the existing shareholders, right? And that's really the best way to see what are shareholders thinking. Do they want to put more money, or they are done with this, right? And we actually had a great surprise. About 60% of the shareholders, more than 60%, participated in the rights offering in November, December. So, we are very pleased with that, because, that shows the vote of confidence you get from the shareholders out there, that they want to not only not sell, but put more money into the company. And that was a positive thing to see. I'm sure there was some selling immediately following the proxy fight, because we did have some good volumes. And I think, as you said, people that it's this human being, and it's normal, I guess, in a way. So there has been some selling. There is very little selling right now. The volumes are pretty low, because there's not many sellers. And even any blocks that we've identified from companies' previous financings that were done in the past by the previous team with general flow through funds that they just sell, we managed to arrange cross trades for other investors, right, including Sun Valley. So we do not see a lot of sellers right now.
Catalin, thank you. I think it was a great update. Hopefully we have time to do it again in some conferences, or when I come over here to Vancouver. Abtipp, Canagold. Wie gesagt, ich bin ja Aktionär, und letztes Jahr hat es einen Fight gegeben zwischen Aktionäre. Wer ist der Leader? Und deswegen gibt es seit letztem Jahr ein totales neues Management, ein neues Board. Der Catalin hat wieder die CEO-Rolle übernommen, nachdem er 2014 bis 2018 schon der CEO war. Der Punkt war einfach, viele Aktionäre waren unzufrieden mit der Entwicklung des Projektes und wollten einfach einen größeren Output sehen. Und das ist jetzt quasi auch passiert. Sie haben sehr viele Bohrergebnisse gehabt. Jetzt kommt eine neue Ressourcenschätzung raus. 39.000 Bohrmeter sind gebohrt worden. Sie wollen 1 Million Unzen in Measured and Indicated bringen. Das gibt ungefähr 10 Jahre mit 100.000 Unzen Jahresproduktion. Sie sind jetzt dabei, eine Bankable Feasibility Study zu machen. Die wird wahrscheinlich erst im nächsten Jahr rauskommen, aber das dauert halt alles eine Zeit. Sie wollen es richtig machen, nicht überhudeln, sondern halt richtig, wie es halt gehört. Sie haben starken Progress auch gemacht mit den First Nations. Dort dementsprechend Deals abgeschlossen. Und wir haben am Anfang auch gesprochen über den Goldmarkt an sich, dass trotzdem eigentlich der Markt noch depressiv ist, obwohl der Goldpreis höher ist. Er sagt, eigentlich müsste der Goldpreis ja noch viel höher stehen mit den ganzen Umständen, was wir haben. Aber bei dieser Konferenz ist quasi auch rausgekommen, so der Grundtenor, dass es jetzt eigentlich bei um die 2000 eine neue Basis ausbildet, bevor dann der nächste Move nach oben kommt. So was wichtig ist, es ist so, dass so kann man es auch machen, dass es dementsprechend so ist, dass Sie jetzt mit den ganzen De-Risking-Sachen anfangen, damit Sie eine Produktionsentscheidung machen können. Mean this that maybe next year we have coming close to a production decision?
Look, I think the bankable feasibility study results will be for sure published next year.
Yeah.
And our objective is around that time we would also have a visibility to permitting, because we kind of know where we are in the permitting process. And we are already, talking with possible capital providers that would eventually provide a financing package subject to completing the permitting. So yes, I think that's our objective. Our objective is once we publish the bankable feasibility, we want to also have a soft commitment or maybe a number of commitments for financing the project, right? Which basically means a production decision, subject to completing the permitting process. So we are moving on all fronts.
Okay. Also nächstes Jahr, wenn es rauskommt, Sie reden natürlich jetzt schon mit Leuten, die die Finanzierung machen können, mit der ganzen Permitting, das läuft alles parallel. Das klingt vielleicht jetzt, dass es eine fade Zeit ist, weil man keine Bohrergebnisse hat, aber in Wirklichkeit ist das ja eine sehr entscheidende Phase, weil ja dort es genau darum geht, wie kann ich diese Projekte in Produktion bringen. Was extrem spannend ist, ist die Aktionärstruktur. Wir haben die größten 5 Aktionäre haben rund 50% des Kapitals, unter anderem Sun Valley. Sun Valley betreibt selber in Kolumbien 2 Minen mit 100.000 Unzen Produktion. Die haben sowohl das technische Know-how als auch Zugang zum Kapital, um das zu finanzieren. Und die sind auch die was quasi aus dem Fight aus Siege herausgegangen sind. Und das macht es eigentlich richtig spannend. Das Problem ist wahrscheinlich, wir sind jetzt momentan in einem Zeitraum, wo es relativ ruhig ist. Aber dieser ruhige Zeitraum ist wichtig, damit die Company genau diese richtigen Schritte machen kann, damit man das Projekt, das Risiko minimiert und gleichzeitig eben quasi dann noch den Ertrag optimiert auf der anderen Seite. Nächstes Jahr könnte es dann zur Produktionsentscheidung kommen, wenn der Bankable Feasibility Study da ist. Dann liegen auch verschiedene Finanzierungsoptionen auf dem Tisch. Und ja, es tut sich was bei der Company, das ist eindeutig klar. In ein paar Wochen kommt die Ressourcenschätzung raus. Das könnte einen Move geben und natürlich hängt die Company maßgeblich am Goldpreis aus, weil, man glaubt es nicht, die Firma steht natürlich, wenn alles klappt, relativ nahe dem Produktionszyklus und das ist eigentlich wirklich spannend. Das war's von Canagold, April 2023 aus Vancouver. Tschüss und Baba. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great.